G'day and welcome to the Ball Boys Fantasy Basketball Podcast brought to you by Hoopball. Today we are talking some deep sleepers, some late round flyers that you can snag at the end of your draft and potentially win your league. Let's go.
Jordan open. Chicago with the lead. Bryant to Shaq.
Not a game. We talking about practice.
LeBron James with no regard for human life. Anything's possible.
Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang!
Murray for three. Wow! Unbelievable. Making it rain in New York.
We the North are now we the champions.
Not the destination, it's the journey. Mamba out.
G'day and welcome to the Ball Boys Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Casey, and you can find me on Twitter at BallBoysNBA. You can also follow us on Instagram at Ball Boys Fantasy Basketball. And as always, the guru is here, Callum Mack. How are you, man?
I'm pretty good. Money Mitch. Doing well. Sleepers today, once again, but this time we're going deeper.
The deep sleepers. We're going way back. The back end of your draft. Players who are ranked outside the top 125 is our cutoff point because that was our last rank for the last Sleepers podcast. If you haven't checked that out, if you're watching on YouTube, there'll be a link up here. You can click that. Or on the podcast, just go back through the podcast episodes and check those ones out. Deep sleepers today. Let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into it. We're going through the guards first. I'll rattle off a few names and then we'll touch on them each as we go. So at 129, we've got Reggie Jackson. We've got DeAnthony Melton at 139. We've got Josh Giddey at 157. Killian Hayes, 161. Jordan Poole at 179. Tyler Hero at 181. And to round it off, we've also got Tyrese Maxey just squeaking inside the top 200 at 199. All right, Cal, talk to me about Reggie Jackson at 129. Do you think that this is too low for him?
It is. This is a man who got the nickname of All-Star Reggie Jackson for a reason in the playoffs. Even with Kawhi Leonard around for the majority of it, he ended up averaging about 18, 3 and 3.5, which, for 129 is pretty good.
Yeah.
You'd only say that his usage would go up. He shot pretty well, 48% from the field. He was having some big explosions. So on like a head-to-head basis, he can go for 30 with the team they have. They like to run that small lineup. He was pretty much the second or third option when Kawhi Leonard went down. You can make the argument for who's going to be the second or third option or fourth option for the Clippers this season around. But as a bit of a flyer, I quite like him around this around the 100 range, for sure.
I think Reggie Jackson, I think he's pretty clearly the second option on this team in terms of offense. Yes, he doesn't offer you much on the defensive end in terms of steals and blocks, but, obviously you're outside the pick 120 here. You're not sort of going to get everything, but you big assists, big points, decent threes. The percentages aren't too bad either. So I think he is a fine selection around that point. Not like the highest of upside in terms of, obviously has his limitations, but I definitely think he should be getting drafted higher than this. Let's talk DeAnthony Melton. I am a big DeAnthony Melton fan. Again, another player who I own in Dynasty teams all around the place. Are you as big of a DeAnthony Melton fan as I am? At rank 139, I think he's a good flyer. Minutes are the issue. What are your thoughts on DeAnthony Melton going into this season?
Well, I think that's the main answer, right? Like, is he going to get minutes? He averaged 20 minutes a game last season in a bit of a bench role.
Yeah.
Do you see that spiking up right now? Look, he was hitting threes. I feel like if you have him, he should be hitting some threes. The steals are reasonable as well, so definitely a bit of a 3-and-D guy. Field goal isn't amazing, but look, if he gets a spike in minutes, you'd like to say that everything else is maintained and goes up with it.
Yeah, look, I just think he's one of those permanent monster guys. He gets, like you said, lots of steals. His assists are pretty decent. Threes are solid. The percentages are okay. Decent blocks for guards as well in limited minutes. I just think that they've cleared the pathway for him to get more minutes. Obviously, getting rid of Grayson Allen and just sort of trimming the edges back a little bit. I think that all he really has to do is compete with Desmond Bane for minutes, and maybe he also gets some backup point guard minutes over Tyus Jones. I think you'll see Dylan Brooks play more at the small forward position. But it is hard to project, and obviously we've been waiting for it for most of last season as well, so it probably may not happen. But in the off chance that it does, this guy could easily be a top 80 player in fantasy basketball if he gets 28 minutes a night. So he's going to be elite in steals, decent assists, good percentages, 3-pointers. So I do like me some DeAnthony Melton. Let's go a little bit even further back. 157. So this is outside, your standard 13 players in a 12-team league. We've got Josh Giddey here, the Aussie. I think that this is a massive steal. I think I'd be very happy taking Josh Giddey well before this, maybe even ahead of the two other guys we've got in front of him, just because of the upside of those assists. What are your thoughts on Giddey?
Yeah, it's definitely assists, and then even a bit of rebounds is kind of why you're getting him. But late in the draft, he's ranked at 157. If you hit 100 and you're like, oh shit, like I've gone all in on bigs or something, I don't know, but he will be a very, very big piece for you in assist, I think, late in the draft, which you don't get. He's the only guy really that's this late that could average over 5 assists a game.
Yeah.
So, and look, he's going to get minutes at OKC. They're going to throw him a lot. They're going to test the waters a bit. His three's going to be bad? Yes.
He could get like a 3 a game.
Pretty average, I think, as well.
Points will suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the assists are there. That's why you get him.
Yeah, the assists are there. Look, yeah, like you said, he's going to have his holes in terms of maybe percentages, but I don't think he's going to be taking huge attempts, so they're not going to hurt you too much. Rebounds, assists. He'd probably get you a steal a game. I think he can hit a 3 a game, personally. So it's not going to be a huge negative there. I don't think he's like a Ben Simmons bad level shooter, but look, those assists is really where his value is, and I think he's gonna get minutes, and I think he'll get better as the season goes on. So someone who I'd be very willing to be patient on, and let him grow throughout the season. Someone who we were maybe too patient on last year, Killian Hayes. At 161, I'm willing to give him another chance with my last pick or two, just for the upside in assists and steals alone. Maybe this shot doesn't come. If it doesn't, if he's hurting my field goal percentage too much, I just drop him and move on. But I think the potential is still there that Killian Hayes is worth a pick late in your fantasy drafts.
Yep. Yeah. Once again, the assist. It's really hard to get the assist this late. And like the steals actually pretty good. He got half a block a game as well for a guard, 1.3 steals. Pretty solid. Definitely expect him and the rookie to kind of share the point guard duties and Cunningham. So. Yep. I definitely see him staggering it. This field goal should come up. It was so bad last season.
It can't get worse.
He can't be any worse than what he was. He has to come up from that.
Yeah, look, he was absolutely awful in terms of shooting last year. So it's, like you said, can't get any worse. It's second year in the NBA. He's not going to have as much responsibility in terms of the point guard duties with Cade Cunningham there. So I think that is going to be a good thing for his value. Interesting to see how they kind of work together. Based on Summer League, it looked like he still had the primary ball handling playmaking role. But we'll see. We'll see how that works out and see how sort of Dwayne Casey runs the show over there in Detroit. The next one here, Jordan Poole at 179. A little bit different to these other guys who are maybe better in the back half of the year. This guy's probably the first few months of the season while Klay Thompson is out. He's going to be giving you good points and threes. Not a whole lot else, but I think he could maybe push close to sort of 18 points a game on 2.5 threes, which is something that you could definitely use late in draft. And 179, you're going to have to scroll down to sort of find him. I think he is worth sort of a late round flyer. What are your thoughts on Jordan Poole? I seem to remember you weren't as keen as me at this point in the draft.
Look, I was like one of the last picks. I'm not too mad because he does give you points and he does give you threes. So if you need that, which is usually what you get on the back end of this draft, he will be worthwhile until Klay Thompson comes back. If you look at the last, pretty much after the All-Star break, when he averaged about 24 minutes a game, 14 points, 2.2 threes, 2.5 assists as well, which is useful. So look, there's some stats there, there's some hope, but I would be definitely ready to move off him and have someone ready to go when he is, so when Klay Thompson is back. Yeah,
I definitely, he's a short-term sort of guy, plug and play. When Klay Thompson's back, that's why you're not investing too high into him. You just cut bait, drop him, move on to someone else when there's usually someone of value on the wire. Let's talk Tyler Hero. I remember you took him in one of our mock drafts earlier this preseason at 181. What are we doing here, guys? Like, there's nothing really changed with Tyler Hero here. Yeah, Kyle Lowry's on the team, but Goran Dragic was there last year, so he's still that backup point guard. He's kind of got the backup guard all to himself, really. There's no one there to really contend with him in terms of usage on the bench, and he's still going to get you high 20s in minutes, maybe even as high as 30 minutes a game. So 181, sign me up.
Yeah, exactly. Because Kane Nunn's out of there. He was
that's
playing
right.
a lot of minutes during the regular season. So now Tyler Hero's kind of been handed the keys as like the sixth man, and he will potentially close a fair few games as well. He averaged about 15, 4 and 4. There's no defensive stats there really at all. But look, 15, 4 and 4, and he's ranked 181.
Yeah.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me at all. Like his percentages weren't even that bad either. Like, I mean, yeah, look, 44% from the field, 80% from the free throw line.
That's good. Yeah.
It's not killing you. It's like, it's reasonable at, 15, 5 and, it's a pretty reasonable stat line.
Yeah, I don't know why he's ranked so far back. I'm normally I think last year we were preaching that he was a bust, and now they've gone completely the other way and ranked him outside the top 180. So, sort of hard to gauge why that is the case, but very happy to take Tyler Hero in the last round or two in a draft. And the last sort of guard here on our deep sleepers, we've got Tyrese Maxey at 199. Little bit dependent on whether or not Ben Simmons has moved and what comes back, but Tyrese Maxey crushed the Summer League this year. He is someone who I really like. I like him a little bit better than Shake Milton and some of those other guards there. I think he's got a high potential. It might not happen this year. It might be a second half of the year thing, maybe a watch list kind of guy, but if you're in a deeper league, maybe like a 14 to 16 team league, I would have no worries taking Maxey with the last pick or two in that kind of a draft. Maybe not a 12-teamer guy, but someone who I'm definitely just putting on my watch list and keeping an eye on. And if a Ben Simmons trade does happen, then he could elevate into that 12-team kind of value. Would you agree with that kind of level for Tyrese Maxey here?
Yeah, I totally agree because Maxey, I feel like the big question mark is what happens to Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
And you may find that Ben Simmons is traded with some kind of wing player. Look, we have no idea what's going to happen. And Tyrese could be handed some pretty reasonable gameplay at the point guard, shooting guard role.
Yeah.
And he could definitely flourish. So as a bit of a flyer for that very reason. And even look, let's say Ben Simmons, they don't even get a deal. He's sitting out for the first month.
There you go, yeah.
Maxey will get minutes and he will put up stats.
Yeah, he'll step in, especially, with those first early games if nothing changes and nothing happens with this Ben Simmons deal. That's a very good point. All right, let's move on to some forwards here. A couple of really good value picks I like here. The first one is one of them in Bojan Bogdanovic at rank 130. This guy is someone who last year, again, I think he was flip-flopped. We were going a bit too high on him. Now we're basically taking him outside the 10th round, which I think for a player who is still solidified in that starting lineup over at Utah, is going to give you good points. He's going to give you good percentages in field goal and free throw. He's going to give you great threes. Sure, the defensive stats aren't going to be there, but at this point of the draft, he's a very valuable player that if you're looking for those categories, can very comfortably beat this ranking. I'm confident in. Would you agree with Bojan Bogdanovic there, Cal?
Yep. I like Bojan in a punt steals build because he can't steal the ball at all. But, 17 points, 2.5 threes a game, 4 rebounds. He shoots about 88% from the free throw line on 4 attempts, which is pretty damn good as well. That really does benefit your team.
Especially,
so there's a lot of pluses there.
Yeah, especially late in the draft. That's really hard to get. Those kind of free throw percentage movers, they're hard to find.
And then look, if you care about turnovers, he only put up 1.8 a game last season. So that's definitely a net plus for someone who puts up 30 minutes a game, and there's no reason for that to go down. Perfect
in a punt assist, punt steals build, which is something that I think is not a bad build this year. Let's go on to this next guy. Again, we talked about in our other sleepers show that De'Aaron Fox is one of my guys. I think Jaden McDaniels is another one of my guys this year. At 147, I'm happy to take him 30 spots ahead of this because I think he's going to have all the opportunity in the world. I'm very excited with his talent. The stats haven't been shown yet, so there is a little bit of downside if you take him as high as 110. So if you can, outside the 120 zone is ideal, but I'm a believer in his ability and his ability to rack up defensive stats, blocks, steals, and also get the threes. What are your thoughts there, Cal?
Yeah, he's a guy that definitely do not put any confidence in him to have any offensive game run through him because they got a good offensive team out in Minnesota.
Yeah.
But in terms of the defensive stats, you could definitely put up, 1.5 threes, 1 steal, 1 block a game, which at this point in the draft can be useful.
Yeah, and he's one of those like baby unicorn type players, really. Yeah, look, the points are not going to be high. I'm hoping the rebounds can increase. But I just think that this guy passes all the eye tests in the world, and I think in his second year in the NBA, he's ready to take a big step forward. Again, someone who's probably going to be better in the second half of the year than the first. He's still very young. He's still learning the NBA game, but I think if you can be patient, I think he's going to be a big time finisher in fantasy basketball playoff time. Let's talk about Otto Porter Jr. on the other side of things. Not a very young player, but someone who I think, especially with the news that James Wiseman is not going to be ready for the start of the season, I think you're going to see Draymond Green shift over to the center, and then you're going to see Otto Porter fill in the gaps at either the 3 or the 4, depending on what they're doing with Wiggins as well. So I think, especially early on, similar to like a Jordan Poole, I think that Otto Porter Jr. is someone that can benefit while some of those other players for Golden State are still coming back. And I think he can very comfortably in the first couple of months beat this ranking here. And then you drop him, you move on. He's someone you can take with your last pick and just sort of try to get ahead in your leagues to begin with. What are your thoughts on Otto Porter Jr.?
Yeah, I feel like he actually will be battling it out a bit for Bielitsa in terms of just to start the season. Wiseman's out. If they're going to play Draymond at the 5, I guess you're going to have Wiggins and then either Bielitsa or Otto Porter filling in the gaps for that last role. You could have a debate for, Kuminga. You could have a debate for Moody. There are some question marks with in terms of, look, they're pretty deep on the forward spot. I guess they do have a few guys to throw there, but if Draymond slides to the center, there will be minutes available. I think
they're going to have Draymond at the center because there's not many other good centers on this team, really. I'm not too worried about Bielitsa. I'm also not too worried about Kuminga as well early on. I think Kuminga might get more minutes down the line, but I think obviously this team is trying to win. I don't think they can afford to mess around with Kuminga this season. And that's why I say he's a short-term play only. But obviously, watch him in the preseason. I wouldn't be taking him much more than like a last pick, but I just think I wanted to highlight him at 176. I think he can beat that value. And the last one here is Isaac Okoro, playing for the Cleveland Cavs. I think he's going to get lots of opportunity. He's one of the only wings on this team, so he's going to be getting lots of minutes. His fantasy game hasn't followed yet, but we have seen some glimpses at the end of last year. Started increasing the points, started increasing the steals and things like that. And at 192, again, maybe not someone you take in 12-team leagues. Maybe the last pick if you're really desperate for some defensive stats. But at 14-team leagues, 16-team leagues, definitely someone who I would be very happy to take towards the end of your draft, and someone who I took in our 14-team mock draft previously. Are you keen on Isaac Okoro at all there, Cal?
Look, not overly keen on Okoro. Look, as a flyer for your last pick, sure. Like he's getting minutes, maybe he
opportunity.
Opportunity. He's an opportunity pick. He put up 32 minutes a game. And last season, he was a net negative in every single category except for turnovers, which is weird because he put up the 32 minutes a game. Yeah. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But look, you're thinking that he takes a big step. He will, once again, he's it's all about opportunity.
Yeah, it's his third year. Like, he's a good player. Like,
Isn't it second year? It's his second year.
Was he a rookie last year? Oh, I can't remember. Yeah. Well, anyway, he's very young. We'll say that. He's a very young player. So he has the ability to just get better naturally. And I think when you've got that opportunity, it's okay taking a flyer on a player like that. But there's a few of those other guys, Jaden McDaniels, Bogdanovic, who we prefer earlier. Let's talk about the centers. There's a few guys on this list here, a couple of ones that you and I both like. Let's talk them through. We've got Mason Plumlee, Mo Bamba, Montrezl Harrell, Alexei Pokusevski, Isaiah Roby, Ken Birch, and Alperen Sengun. Mason Plumlee, just real quick, he's just a solid guy at 134. I think he's still going to get minutes in the mid-20s at his new team. And I think that, solid percentages, decent assists for the big guy. He's just going to be very solid. Pretty boring, but he should comfortably beat this ranking.
Yeah, look, a bit boring, but he's just going to hover around that kind of, around the 100 value just because he can get the assists. He gets you a steal, he gets you a block. Good field goal.
Rebounds.
And rebounds as well. So just for those stats right there, he's definitely worth the pick. if you need that in the late, if you just need a center to fill in your box for the late rounds, just get Mason Plumlee. He's not a bad pick. He's boring, but he's not a bad pick.
Yeah, and I also think the shutdown risk is a lot less compared to when he was on the Detroit Pistons last year. At Charlotte, I don't think they're going to be shutting him down towards the end of the season, so I'm less concerned with that. Let's talk about Mo Bamba at 136. We both don't like him as a player, but as a fantasy player, you can't deny the fact that if this guy gets minutes, he's going to put up stats. He's going to give you blocks. He's going to give you threes, which is a rare combo. We will see what the battle and what the minute split is like, but even in something like, like Chris Boucher kind of mold, he is someone that he doesn't need a whole lot of minutes to be valuable in fantasy. What are your thoughts on Mo Bamba at 136?
Yeah, it's definitely too low. I think he will be battling it out. He'll get some opportunity. He could start some games. He could even play with Wendell Carter because he decides to only shoot threes in offense. But this is a guy, could do 2 3-pointers a game and 2 blocks a game, which is the unicorn status.
Yeah. If he gets the minutes, he could easily do that. And get you solid percentages in terms of free throws for a big guy. Rebounds are there. So, yep, someone who you take a swing at and you can be handsomely rewarded. What are your thoughts about Montrezl Harrell? I'm not as sold with this one. I'm not a big Montrezl Harrell fan personally, but at 142, with Thomas Bryant out for the start of the season, there's a bit of a positional battle with him and Gafford at this team. What are your thoughts at him at 142? Do you think he starts? Is he off the bench? Does he play enough minutes? What are your thoughts with this guy?
I kind of like him at 142. As in, I think you can definitely get some good value there, just because Gafford wasn't playing that many minutes, even when he had his bit of his outburst last season, because he would get in the foul trouble, getting the blocks. And we know that Trez Harrell, he can put up good stats in limited minutes as well. Like even last season, in about 23 minutes a game, he's putting up 14 points, 6 rebounds, 0.7 steals, 0.7 blocks, great field goal, reasonable free throw percentage. So he can fill the stat sheet when he's out there, and I don't see his minutes really going down, especially with Thomas Bryant not playing the first chunk of the season.
Yeah. I think similar vein to Otto Porter Jr. and the Jordan Pooles. He's like a short-term guy. See how it works out. You might get value for a few months, and then you drop him later on in the season when Thomas Bryant comes back into the fold. But even then, I don't know how it's all going to work out. It's always a bit murky over there in Washington. They've got so many sort of average players that are all kind of the same skill level, so we'll see how it all works out. So Montrezl Harrell, whilst he doesn't have the highest upside a lot of these guys do have, I think he is worth drafting. Let's talk about my guy, Aleksej Pokusevski, Poku, the man, the myth, the legend himself. At 152, we saw Adam King draft him as his only center on his punt big man build, which I did like. There's a lot of upside. He plays for a team that doesn't care about winning, so they're going to feed him minutes. What are your thoughts about Poku at 152?
He has to fit your build. I guess that's all I'll say. I'm probably not completely sold on him.
Get on board, Cal. Come on.
I'm not on board yet. Look, the man shot 34% from the field last season.
Only up from here.
0.4 steals, 0.9 blocks. I guess, if you're getting a block a game, there's something.
Yeah, I'm getting real excited about a guy who shot 34%, 0.4 steals, and less than a block. But if you watch the guy, there's talent there. I'm telling you, there's talent there. Look, it might blow up in your face. So you take him with your last pick or two, and if it doesn't work out, you drop him. But I'm still a believer. I still think he's super young, super duper young. He was the youngest player in the draft last year, or second youngest after Patrick Williams. I can't remember who was younger out of the two. But just raw last year. He's still growing into his body. But he's shown the chops, and I think you could do worse. Obviously, your punting field goal percentage, his field goal percentage is still going to be horrible. It might be less horrible, but, threes, assists, blocks, they're all going to sort of be there in out-of-position stats. So I don't mind taking a swing on Poku in a punt field goal percentage scenario. His teammate, Isaiah Roby, at 167. Are you higher on Roby than Poku?
I'm a bit higher. He was a guy who did show some signs from a fantasy point of view. The minutes, we have to realize Josh Giddey is going to step into this lineup and probably average about 25 minutes a game. Roby ended up averaging about 25 minutes a game. 9 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, about a steal and half a block a game. So it doesn't scream at you, but the opportunities there. He did have some games where he flashed. So it's a bit of a fire. It's a fire that you think that he's going to put it together this season.
Al Horford's gone. Moses Brown is gone. There was a bit of clutter in the center position there last year. Yes, you've got Derek Favors there, but I don't put Derek Favors on the same level that I put like an Al Horford. So I don't necessarily think they're going to be trying to pump up his trade value like they did with Horford. I think they're just going to run with their young guys from the get-go. That might be wrong. And even if it is wrong, though, it's probably not going to last very long. He's probably got less upside than Poku, but probably more a higher floor than Poku would be the best way to put that. Last two here, guys. At Kem Birch at 293, we are thinking he's going to be the starter. Look, he's not the most exciting fantasy player, but at 293, like he's still probably worth. Would you say he's worth a pick in the last round of your 12-team leagues?
Yeah, I'd happily take him for the last round. If you need a center, this is a guy that could definitely put up, your average center stats, but in the late rounds, that's pretty handy. In terms of what he did in the last 2 months of the season, which is with the Magic, I believe he was putting up about.
No, he was over at Toronto by this point. I think the last couple.
He was over at Toronto. Okay, yeah. Well, 10 points a game, 6 rebounds, a steal, a block a game. That's okay.
That's solid. Yeah, very solid. I think at 293, you're going to have to scroll down to get him. Definitely if you're in a 14 or 16 team league, you're definitely drafting him. Kem Birch, if you need that big guy. The ceiling's not super high, but he's definitely someone who, like you said, can give you solid big man stats. And lastly, maybe one of our favorite deep sleepers this year in fantasy leagues all around the world, all categories, all different types. The man, the myth, the legend, Alperen Sengun, at 647. So you're going to have to search him up. Don't bother scrolling through, clicking next on Yahoo. Search the man up. That's Alperun on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. Alperen Sengun. I think he could potentially be a huge difference maker at the stretch of the season. Maybe in a 12-team league, he's a watch list guy early in the season. But just see, he doesn't need that many minutes to get stats. So I'm perfectly fine taking a swing on him on the last round of your pick. I would take him over Birch and Roby pretty comfortably personally.
And if you look at that draft that we did, the last draft with Adam King, you did swipe him from me.
I did.
You got him in maybe it's the second last.
Second last pick, I think it was. Yeah.
So, look, there are some people interested out there, especially if you listen to me, because I've been high on this man for a long time.
You are, yeah.
I love Sengun. He can do the splits. He's won the MVP in the Turkish league. There's not much he can't do.
Yep, he's good at a lot of different stats, and like we said, doesn't need a whole lot of minutes to get them. So, and they're pushing youth over in Houston. So by the end of the season, it would not surprise me if he's playing 26, 27, 28 minutes a night for the last couple of months of the season. So that will do it today, guys. Let us know if you think we've missed any other deep sleepers. Who was your favorite pick in the last rounds of last year? Let us know in the comments below. If you were listening along on Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star rating. Let us know what you think of the podcast. Any feedback, anything you want to see from us, please let us know. We're always happy to take it on board. Always happy to talk fantasy hoops. Make sure you are subscribed. Plenty more videos coming along. We might have some more mock drafts coming. All sorts of fantasy content coming your way until the start of the season. And until then, we'll catch you later. Bye.